There's a hikmah that comes from the seerah, subhanAllah, and it's something that is so scary. And when I heard it and read it, it was something that actually really changed my life. It says that the Rasul said, if someone wants to know what position he enjoys in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has only to look at what place he gives to God in his heart and in his life. So I want us to all really reflect on that. What position do we give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our life? What position does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take in our hearts and in our time and in our mind? And everyone really has to be thinking about that. I want everyone, especially in Ramadan, outside of Ramadan, I want everyone to be really thinking, what position does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enjoy in my life? Because the problem is that we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need us. And so we're the ones who lose out when we don't give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a central place in our actions, in our thoughts, and in our heart. Now, the term that's nearest to self-development, subhanAllah, is what we call Teskea. And Teskea really means a purification, right? And that refers to the cleansing of the human self. So we remove all the impurities and all the sins as much as we can, anything really that's unwholesome. And at the same time, it also means everything positive that's going in. And so it's not just about removing bad things or the sins or the desires, but it's also really putting great things into our soul and into our heart, and really focusing on our senses and what happens with that. Now, in order to really do that and to understand it, we have to look at what is our goal in life, what is our purpose in life. So in order to do something like this, there's two things. One is that we have to be people who strive in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because there's going to be tons of hardships, and you cannot do Teskea without striving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the other thing that's asked of us is to be from the mu'mineen. So to be of the believers, right? And what does it mean to be a believer? SubhanAllah, when we talk about defining faith, faith is ma waqara fil qalb, al-iman, ma waqara fil qalb, what exists in the heart. So we know that faith exists in the heart, and it's made truthful by what you say and what you do, right? And so it's really important that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to do, the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we establish the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ourselves first, and we help to do that in our families and in our communities. And this is a huge part of faith, and also in our actions, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be asking us about this on the Day of Judgment. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about purpose, actually, the common misconception is that our purpose is just to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we want to understand purpose, we actually need to go back to the Quran. There's 3 places in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of talks about the purpose of human beings. So one thing that we have, of course, is we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only created us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is one of the factors. Another thing is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about istimar. So this is where, our purpose is to be producers on earth, and to be the engineers and the doctors and the lawyers and the artists and, all of these things that build, kind of the builders of the earth. But really overarching that, subhanAllah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the story of creation, the angels are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why did you create human beings, right? And so, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds, and when he talks about creation and why he created human beings, it was to be a Khalifa on earth. And what does that mean, to be a Khalifa on earth? It means to be a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does it mean to be a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is to establish the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in yourself first, and then in your family and in the community, and then of course globally, which is really in essence the da'wah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is what we will be asked about on the Day of Judgment.